Hello, everybody. My name is Rebecca, and I am a member of the Rareminds team as a specialist counsellor who works with NC UK. I'm here today to talk with you about uncertainty and what it means to you. I hope that there'll be something in this presentation that resonates with you and that you feel you may be able to hold on to and remember in times of future uncertainty. I will be present this afternoon at the Q&A and hope that if any of you are left with any questions after today's presentation, that you may feel able to bring them to the Q&A, and I look forward to meeting you later. Okay, so let's get started. Uncertainty and what it means to you. Living with the uncertainty of it all. What is the all we are talking about? Well, as we all know at the moment, there is a huge level of global uncertainty. There are things that we have no ability to control or affect change with. There is war, there is famine, there is so much going on in the world at the moment, and that is global uncertainty. There's also personal uncertainty that we have to live with around jobs, relationship, finances, home, children, all the things that life brings a lot of uncertainty. And on top of that, for people living with neuroendocrine cancer, you have disease-related uncertainty. And rare conditions and neuroendocrine cancer bring with it an enormous level of uncertainty. So, uncertainty is difficult. Living with uncertainty is incredibly difficult. It's very hard, and we don't like it. We like to know what is going to happen today. We like to know what we can affect change with. We like to know what control, power we have to control things and be certain about things. And we like to avoid uncertainty wherever we can. We all put things in place, which means that we are more certain about what to expect. We are more certain about what will happen. And that is how we as human beings like to function. So why does uncertainty make us so anxious? The truth is that we are still always on the lookout for the lion in the undergrowth. We are animals, and we learned a long, long time ago that to stay safe, we needed to be certain about things. We need to know what's happening. Otherwise, we are provoked into a situation where we're left with anxiety, which leaves us feeling fearful and leaves us with a fight or flight response, which creates that sense of anxiety. Life involves ongoing preoccupation with where's the threat and am I safe? And when we can't answer those two questions, we are left with anxiety and uncertainty. Anxiety is our mind and body working together to try and keep us safe. And uncertainty means we don't have enough clear information to know how best to respond, so the anxiety builds. If we can't solve the problem, we're left with that sense of anxiety. Uncertainty and rare conditions very much go hand in hand, because there is a lot about rare conditions and neuroendocrine cancer that leaves us uncertain. There are things that we don't know, and there are things that we may not know at different times. So the macro uncertainties, the big uncertainties around living with a rare condition or neuroendocrine cancer is, how will the condition impact me over time? There will be fears about losing someone you love or perhaps dying yourself. There will be fears about how will I cope with the pain, or will the pain make me dependent on somebody, or will the condition leave me dependent on somebody? How will they manage when I'm not here? That feeling of leaving somebody behind is full of uncertainty and anxiety. Will the treatment help? Will it work? What will it change? What will it improve? Will it improve anything? Or will things stay the same? And then you have things that are the micro uncertainties, the smaller things that affect us on a daily basis when living with neuroendocrine cancer. So when will appointment dates arrive? Will they come in the post? Will they come on an email? Will they come on a text and suddenly arrive when you're not expecting them? The timing and nature of how results are delivered to you. Will it be in an appointment, or again, will it be virtually? Will it come through an email when you're not expecting it, when you can't prepare yourself for the results? Might they just pop into your inbox? Will I be able to get to an appointment if there are travel disruptions, if there's train strikes, if there's a problem with the car, if there are issues around roads closed? Will I see the doctor I like? Will it be somebody else? Will it be another member of the team I've not met yet? And will today be a good day or a bad day for symptoms? All of these can be things that we don't know and that leave us with uncertainty. Anxiety presents itself in many different ways. And sometimes we may not connect that what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, what we're displaying is actually attached to our feeling of anxiety. Anxiety can leave us with a real intolerance of uncertainty, a real fear about it, a desire and a need to get things that are certain, keep hold of certainty, the desire to control people and events, difficulty getting to sleep. Our mind might be racing. We might want to find answers that aren't available. We might find ourselves feeling angry or agitated, perhaps with a very short fuse, perhaps easily exploding. And there may be times when we feel really defiant of others. Somebody's asked you to do something that perhaps in the past would be very easy, wouldn't be a big thing. Suddenly it's like, no, I'm not going to. No, I don't want to. So a real defiance against things that perhaps would have been easier to manage in the past. Anxiety can present itself with us suddenly feeling a very heightened expectations of ourselves. Again, that's about how we control things. Perhaps if we control the things that we can do, so we expect more of ourselves, we desire more from ourselves. This can include with work, school, sport, even relationships. We can have a very high expectation. Alternatively, we can find ourselves avoiding activities or events, including school or work, or retreating from a social life. It's easier to retreat than perhaps deal with the anxiety that may be provoked about going into a social situation. We can find ourselves having what are known as somatic reactions to our anxiety. So we might feel stomach cramps or nausea or abdominal pain or headaches. And this is where we realize that our bodies and our minds are inextricably linked. And when we are experiencing a level of pain and anguish in an emotional way, it can be portrayed in a physical way. We can find ourselves struggling to stay focused, stay on task, keep attention on something when we're living with a level of uncertainty and anxiety that is provoked with neuroendocrine cancer. We can also find ourselves feeling incredibly emotional and crying and really unable to manage difficult emotions that might feel like they're overflowing, spilling over, and can't be contained. And we can find ourselves over planning for situations and events, wanting to make sure that every micro detail is in place so that nothing can surprise us. Nothing can be that lion in the undergrowth that's going to jump out and surprise us and attack when we're not ready for it. And feeling worried about situations and events, again, that we can't always manage and make sure are going to turn out exactly as we wish them to. When we're living with a level of anxiety and uncertainty, we can find ourselves in dealing with it in two very different ways. In one way, it might be that what we're experiencing is denial. Really, it's no big deal. No fuss. Not going to engage with this at all. It's really not a problem. This is absolutely fine. I'm fine. I'm just going to ignore it. Or alternatively, we can find ourselves feeling very preoccupied, can't stop thinking about it, bringing it into conversations where perhaps it's not really a topic that other people feel comfortable with. I have the right to know something. I need to know something now. Finding answers, wanting answers all the time. And the way that these two different sides of the coin relate to behaviours is that when we're in denial of a situation and a feeling of anxiety or experience, we don't want to talk about it. We avoid the situations where we might talk about it. We avoid getting information or news. You might see an email come in, but rather than reading it, you might forget about it, pretend it's not there. We might find ourselves getting annoyed if people want to talk about it when we don't want to. And we might be very dismissive of other people's need or desire to talk about it, just not going there. We also might find ourselves looking for things that might numb that sense of anxiety and that difficulty, like perhaps eating too much or drinking too much, or actually retreating and hiding under the duvet and sleeping too much. These are all behaviours that are linked to being in denial around a diagnosis of the anxiety and the uncertainty. If the way that you feel that you're managing your diagnosis, your anxiety and your uncertainty is by living with it in a preoccupied way, we might find that we are talking about it a lot, researching it all the time, finding Dr. Google, working out what might be happening with you, trying to answer any questions you have, compulsive fact finding. You might find this difficulty getting to sleep, staying asleep, or actually relaxing, and find it really hard to find the space to be sociable or playful. The common feelings that can occur when living with uncertainty are feelings of resentment, worry, hopelessness, withdrawal, loss of confidence, frustration, anxiety, anger, fear, and envy. And all of these can come along with a sense of low mood and depression and grief. Perhaps there's a sense of grief around the life that you had, a sense of envy around other people not having to live with this condition, a sense of loss about the things that you'd hoped to do in the future that you're no longer able to do. All of these feelings are very present when living with uncertainty. When we're talking about our mental health and how we live with all the things that are thrown at us on a daily basis, it can be helpful to think of mental health as a continuum. When we're at the green end, we're living in optimal health and thriving. That's when we're managing things, we're not really experiencing any of the things that we've talked about before. And then on the other side of this, you've got the red level of the continuum where there's real distress and actual difficulty and illness, perhaps, around dealing with all the things that you're expected to cope with. And in the middle, we've got that yellow zone where we might tip into one side or the other, but generally things are feeling okay. So accepting that uncertainty is part and parcel of living with rare conditions can be incredibly helpful. It's not easy, but it can be incredibly helpful. So what does acceptance look like? What does it mean to accept something? Well, if we think about the rain, we go out one day, we know it's raining. Excuse me. When we're not accepting of the rain, and the fact that it's raining, we might say something like, I don't like rain. I wish it wasn't raining today. I wasn't prepared for rain. I don't want it to rain. It's going to ruin my day. Every day is like this. Why does this always rain when I want it to be sunny? If we accept that it's raining, perhaps we just say, it's raining. So to accept that anxiety and uncertainty is normal, perhaps we need to think about where we are on that continuum. Where are you on that continuum? Where would you say you fluctuate? Or would you say you're quite solid somewhere? So consider where you are on the continuum. Don't try and push feelings away or be critical of yourself when we accept something. Perhaps we need to accept that we're not brilliant at dealing with these things all the time. There might be good days and bad days, but it's okay to feel like that. Notice what you are like. Notice what feelings you're feeling. Notice how you're behaving to somebody or with somebody. Notice how that felt when somebody asked that question. What was it that was provoked when that question was asked? Self-knowledge can inform and enable us to make choices. And those choices might be change, or they might not be change. But knowing ourselves enables us to make a decision as to whether we are going to change. Understanding yourself. How have you dealt with uncertainty before? How did people around you deal with anxiety when growing up? If, as a child, whenever you were anxious about something, a parent perhaps said, oh, don't be ridiculous. It's nothing to be worried about. Don't be silly. That might influence how you now manage and approach things that leave you with anxiety. Reflecting on your previous experiences of uncertainty can help you understand more about yourself and why you respond to anxiety as you do. So think, what helped? What didn't help before? What have I done in the past when I was feeling anxious that helped? What have I done in the past when I was feeling anxious that didn't help? What might I need when I'm anxious? Can I allow myself that? Can I allow myself to do something enjoyable when I feel those anxiety feelings becoming more present? Or do I have to say no? Why? What is it about your previous experience that might be informing and influencing the way that you manage uncertainty and anxiety now? Focus on what you can control or influence, not what you can't. So when we feel those levels of anxiety rising and that level of uncertainty being present, think about, what can I control? What do I know? What can't I control? What don't I know? Routines and structures can help counter uncertainty and make things a little bit more predictable. And routines and structure give us mental time off decision making. So if you do know something, it allows your brain a little bit of space to breathe and not have to think about all the things we don't know. It can be really helpful to notice the thoughts, the worries, the concerns, but perhaps let them pass on by. Acknowledge that thought that's come into your mind. Notice and challenge when you are, oh, but what if? Think about that thought. Understand what it is. What am I worried about? I've got this feeling of anxiety, but what is it that I'm worried about? Oh, okay, I know. I've got an appointment next week for my test results, but I don't actually know what my results are going to be, and that is quite scary. What can you do with that information? By acknowledging that's what you're worried about, you can then put that worry on the train and let the train leave. Let the train leave with that worry on board, knowing that the train will come back round later and you can choose whether to think about the worry or let it pass on by again. Worrying about the future diverts energy from coping with the demands of the present. So if we're constantly thinking about what might happen, what if, when, how, then we can't actually think about what's happening now. What's happening now, real in the present. It can be really helpful to make a conscious decision about deciding what matters. Who and what is important to you? Who do you want to prioritise? Right now, even in the face of difficulty, what feels important? Might it be meeting up with that friend for coffee? Might it be going to a school event with somebody? Might it be going to a work event? What is important to you? What is important to you now? And what can you do? What can you hold on to? Practice gratitude for what there is, not what there isn't. Can be very helpful to maybe write a gratitude diary when we go to bed at night. Write down a couple of things that have been good, that you feel grateful for, that you feel gratitude for. Having a plan B can be really helpful when we're living with uncertainty. Making plans can feel difficult when you live with a lot of uncertainty. Plan Bs helps manage disappointment because uncertainty and disappointment can often go hand in hand. They might include not being able to attend all of an event. So rather than not going at all, the plan B is I will go, but I might have to leave early, and that's okay. A plan B might be, I really want to meet you for dinner, but I just know I'm not physically able to do it this week. Can we make the appointment for next week? Can we change the dates and see how I'm feeling then? I might have to cancel, but I might not. Setting a deadline by which you need to review and decide. So you can say, okay, I've got dinner out next week, but what I'm going to do is see how I'm feeling the night before, and then I can decide whether or not I'm going to cancel or not. So you give yourself space to make decisions that allow the uncertainty to be acknowledged, but maybe have a plan around it. Perhaps finding a good alternative experience. I can't go to the party and dance all night, but what I could do is meet you for afternoon tea for an hour instead. Might that work? When we are living with the fears of uncertainty, we can find ourselves rolling forward to the future about what ifs, what we don't know. It can be really helpful to bring ourselves back to refocus on the present. Practice mindful moments in your day. When you find yourself spiraling out into a world of what ifs, bring yourself back and think, okay, but what do I do? What do I know now? What do I know today? What am I doing in this moment? What am I enjoying in this moment? I'm going to really appreciate drinking my cup of tea while it's warm, while it's comforting, and I'm going to enjoy that. I'm just going to focus on that. Practice relaxation techniques, especially at night, can be really helpful. So things like mindfulness, deep breathing, body scanning, box breathing, all of things I imagine you may have heard of before, but we'll look at later. A word that can be really helpful when living with uncertainty is the word yet. I don't know the answer yet. I don't know the plan yet. I don't know how that will happen yet. You're not there yet. Bring your focus to the present. Mostly we are okay enough for now. Look after your general health, really important, particularly when you're living with some conditions like neuroendocrine cancer. Try to eat mindfully. Try to acknowledge what you're eating and think of it nourishing, nurturing. It's really good food. Try to keep an eye on alcohol and drug and food use. Did I need that glass of wine? Was that cake necessary? What am I using it for? Why am I eating too much? Why am I maybe drinking too much? Keep it in mind. Try and move and exercise even when we really don't want to exercise. Just a short walk can be really good for the body, mind, and spirit. Getting outside when we can, or even doing some chair exercises, sitting in a space where you can see outside, can be really helpful as well. Maintain activities that matter to you. If it's something that's important, try and carry on for as long as possible. Try to keep a good sleep and rest routine. Sometimes it can disappear out of this when we're not feeling well, when we're feeling anxious. Sleep can become really difficult. So try and have a really good nighttime routine. Maybe a warm bath, maybe a warm drink, maybe a hot water bottle, what's cozy and comforting and enables you to relax. Keep up with general and specific health appointments. Can be quite overwhelming when we know there's lots of appointments coming, but making an effort to keep on top of them and making sure you know when to expect them can be helpful. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge the amount of uncertainty, anxiety you manage living with neuroendocrine cancer. Manage your energy banks, stay connected, notice difficult thoughts and feelings, and don't judge. Ask for help if you need it. Really important. Explore mindfulness, staying in the present. Practice mindful moments in your day. Practice relaxation techniques, especially at night, and bring your focus to the present. Mostly we are safe enough. Learning to live with anxiety is incredibly hard, as we have said. Since uncertainty is an inevitable part of the human experience, the quality of our lives improves dramatically if we can learn to make peace with it. When I wake up each morning, I try to reflect that I cannot know for sure what each day has in store, especially with regard to my health. Then I decide to greet the day nonetheless with as much caring attention, self-compassion, and open-heartedness as I can muster. I hope that you will do the same. This is a quote from Tony Bernhard, author of How to Live Well with Chronic Pain and Illness, and I feel it could be a really positive way of trying to find that space to accept living with the uncertainty of living with neuroendocrine cancer. Here are some general mental health support organisations that I feel can be very helpful. I will leave them there for a moment. You might want to take notes from them. It can also be helpful perhaps to take a photograph if you have your phones available. But if there's anything on here that you don't catch, then my email address is available at the end, and please make sure to email me if you have any questions. Thank you. I hope that there's been something on this talk that you have felt able to hold on to or take away. I look forward to meeting those of you that are coming to the Q&A later on this evening, and I will see you then. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care. Goodbye.